Hey folks, welcome to my session on building an end-to-end solution using the Power Automate mobile app, Power Apps, and Microsoft Teams. Before we begin, a couple housekeeping items. Please, I'm not sure if you guys have heard, but there is a new collaboration conference taken over the old SharePoint conference, and it's now called the Microsoft 365 Collaboration Conference, where it's focusing on Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, the Power Platform, and it is in Vegas on March 23rd to the 25th of next year at MGM. I've been there for the last couple of years, and I'm doing a session this year and talking about building a bot for Microsoft Teams in 15 minutes using Microsoft Azure. So hopefully to see you guys all there. And please make sure you guys give a gracious thank you to our generous sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't be able to take time for such events and go visit their websites, take a look at their material, everything we need to do to support them to keep doing these types of events. And before we begin, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Noorez Khamis. Everybody calls me Rez. I'm out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I am VP Technology and co-founder of a company called CreoSpark Consulting Services. I'm just about a 10 times Microsoft MVP in Microsoft 365, focused on SharePoint and Microsoft Teams right now. I'm also an information management consultant and a Microsoft Cloud Solutions Enterprise Architect. I also speak at many of these types of conferences and do a lot of training. My contact information is there on the right-hand side, so feel free to reach out if you have any questions. So what are we doing today? Really, we want you to learn how to use the Microsoft 365 Power Platform services to empower teamwork and solve your business automation challenges in your organization. We're going to start with first describing the scenario, which has to do with insurance claims and the photos adjusters take within those claims. And then we'll go into some of the business outcomes we're looking for. And then really this session is going to be focused on demos. And the services we're going to be showing today are kind of a plethora of all the fun Microsoft 365 services, including SharePoint Online, Power Automate, Power Apps, and Microsoft Teams. And we're going to fit them all together and in one happy family. So first, before I begin, I just wanted to talk about Microsoft Teams. And the scenario we've run into is actually kind of a subset of a requirement we had from one of our insurance companies. And the insurance company wanted to surface up all their apps and chatting and conversations and uploading in files in one location. And what other location is better than Microsoft Teams for that? Microsoft Teams has the ability to chat. It has the ability to create teams, so you can have a hub for all of your teamwork. It's totally customizable, so if we want to extend it using any of the cool extensions that are available, or even using Power Apps, which we're going to show today. And the underpinning of all that is the security and compliance that we trust that comes with the Microsoft 365 service. For any of you who are not familiar with Microsoft Teams, I highly recommend taking a look at this site. And if you're just getting into Teams, I'll quickly pull it up. The site is teamsdemo.microsoft.com, teamsdemo.office.com, sorry. And this site will allow you to kind of get a quick tour of what Microsoft Teams is all about without having an account, installing it or anything. It guides you through all the terms that I'm going to be talking today about all the cool functionality that you're going to be getting if you deploy Microsoft Teams. So highly recommend you go take a look at teamsdemo.office.com if you're just getting into Teams. So where do we start if we want to develop Microsoft Teams applications? You don't have to start from bare bones code. And what we're talking about today is one such solution accelerator. And these solution accelerators really help you with your Teams apps to at least start them out. And the first one I'll talk about is app templates. If you go to this URL, this aka.ms, Microsoft Teams app templates, it allows you to see a whole bunch of prefabricated templates that Microsoft has given you, and I'll actually quickly open it up. And the cool benefits here is that you can quickly deploy really cool apps that are based on Teams, such as the Celebrations app, the company communicator app, an FAQ plus bot. They've got a bunch of the new ones every day, but I'll quickly go through some of them. The HR support bot, the SharePoint list search bot, custom stickers app. Now, what we do at our organization, when we get a requirement for an app, our customized app for any of our clients, we kind of start with some of these more, if they have more complex bot requirements, we'll start, for example, with this icebreaker bot and use it as a framework. So what we do is we click on this little get it on GitHub, and what we can see here is really cool descriptions and documentation, deployment guides, and architecture on how you could deploy this type of app. It shows you the documentation of the app, how it works, the actual how you deploy it from an Azure perspective, from a Teams perspective, and all the kind of intricacies you need to go there. And then the other great thing is it shows you the architecture of the app too. So we kind of use this as a solution accelerator. We find kind of an app that's very close to what our client's looking for, and then extend it using that. So that's one such accelerator you can do for Microsoft Teams. The second one we're going to talk today, so I'll skip over that. But the third one is the SharePoint framework. You can expose your SharePoint framework web parts and extensions within your Teams apps for your developers if they're already familiar with that modern way of developing. And then today, really what we're focused on today is talking about using the Power Platform Solution Accelerator. With this, you can easily create apps and you don't have to be a developer. So what about the Microsoft Power Platform? It's a low-code platform that spans Microsoft 365 services, such as Office 365, Dynamics 365, Azure, and standalone applications. It easily allows power users, citizen developers to develop apps with no code. You basically have to be familiar with Excel-like formulas. You can connect to your data to all these different types of connectors and custom connectors, and store your data in practically any type of database, including the common data service that is served by Microsoft. You could integrate with all your Microsoft Office 365, Azure Dynamics 365, and Power BI dashboards. It has those strong enterprise governance and security underneath the covers. And then you could really extend it for you developers who need to do more advanced type of stuff. And the cool thing about when you develop a Power app in the Power Platform, every Power app is a Teams app. Power apps are available in Teams where all of your work and all your teamwork and all your critical work and collaboration already happen. You can, for all you Power Apps creators, you can deploy your apps that you've created directly in the Teams that you have ownership access to. IT admins can distribute these Power Apps in a really scalable manner. They can publish them to the tenant app catalog in Teams if you don't want to give the capability of those Power App creators to deploy them themselves. And then frontline workers can access these Power Apps and any associated flows in Power Automate on your Teams mobile device or through the Power Automate app within Microsoft Teams. And you get all the extensibility that you do connecting to any type of data source. So let's quickly jump to the demos and to today's walkthrough. So today's walkthrough is about accident claim assessments. So we've got a fictitious insurance company. We'll call it Creo Insurance because my company is called Creo Spark. We've got adjusters visiting customers on site to evaluate damage that has occurred to their vehicles. The adjuster, when they visit you on site, they really want to take a picture of the damage that has occurred and then review with management. Now, when the manager sees that, they might say, you know what, that's a pretty straightforward kind of accident. We don't need to have a discussion. Let's just go ahead and process it, or whatever that happens on the insurance company side, the business side. Or they might want to say, you know what, this kind of accident warrants some further discussion. We probably want to have some further pictures uploaded in our records, and we probably want to go through a further internal claim assessment process. So really the flow from a high level, what we're going to be going through today is the adjuster is going to send a main picture of the accident from their mobile phone. The manager is going to review the accident picture within Microsoft Teams. The manager is going to decide kind of if it's worthy of a further claim discussion. And then the full team is going to collaborate on the accident claim and look at other pictures and chat and do all their meetings that they need to do within a location in Teams. So that's kind of the walkthrough we're going to be doing from a high level. Now let's go through a mapping of the process flow to the technology before we get into the demo. So we just went through this. So we send a picture, manager reviews, decide if it warrants further claim discussion, and then the full team collaborates. The technologies where this is all going to happen, we talked about in the previous slides. It's going to be SharePoint Online, Power Automate, Power Apps, and Microsoft Teams. So what are the steps we're going to do? So the first step is to create our data source. So what we're going to do is create a library in Microsoft SharePoint that's attached to our Microsoft team and create the metadata we want to track for our accident that needs to be sent to our manager and sent to our database for all the information about the customer and the accident. Obviously, we're not going to track the full amount, but we'll do a subset of it. Step two, what we're going to do using the Power Automate mobile app and this concept called the Power Automate button, we're going to upload the picture and the associated metadata about that claim that we want to store in our site within our SharePoint library. Step three is we're going to generate a Power App from the SharePoint library data source. This Power App is going to represent the latest claim pictures that have come in by all the adjusters so that the manager can vet out the accident pictures and then, if they want, create a Teams discussion around them and an ability to store extra documents for them. Lastly, in Microsoft Teams, we're going to be able to have conversations on this team. The manager is going to evaluate all the pictures, and it brings you all the fun stuff that Microsoft Teams brings you, not only on a voice, video, calling, communication aspect, but also a collaboration aspect and a content management aspect by every team being hooked up to a SharePoint site. So I think you guys are tired of me talking, so let's get right into the demo. So what I'm going to do is render my mobile phone using this snazzy little app. So let me connect to it so you guys can see my phone. Actually, before I do that, we'll actually show you the data source. So here is my Microsoft Teams. So hopefully most of you guys have Microsoft Teams deployed, but what I've done here is create a team from the Join or Create button down here. I've called it Create Insurance Claim Discussions. Within the insurance claim discussions, I've uploaded a nice picture here so that you can tell what it is and you can easily get to it. And you always get a general channel with your team. And this is where I'm going to be uploading my files and having my conversations and discussions from it. Now, when you create a team, you get a SharePoint site that backs it. So this is where I want to create my data source. So that's the first thing, that's the first step we want to do within this. So we will go to the Files tab here. And this File tabs is just the SharePoint document library in the team site that's hooked up to this Microsoft team, and you can easily get it by clicking on this Open in SharePoint button. Within this Open in SharePoint button, we've got, by default, it takes to the document library. What we want to do here is we want to have our own library for it. So what we're going to do is click on the Site Actions gear here. and then we will say add an app. What we're going to do is select the type of app of a document library, and we will give it a name. In this case, we will call it the accident claims document photos backup. We'll just call it accident claim photos. So we will create that document library. So when it creates that, you'll see the new library showing up here. And right away here, you see you get the metadata that's associated with a document when you upload it to a document library. So we've got the name of the file, we've got the modified, when it was modified, and who it was last modified by. So for our accident claim, we want to have a little bit of more metadata. So if we think about it, what are the type of information we would want to add to a claim? So things like possibly customer number might be an example, license plate, vehicle, accident description, that might be another one. So when you create a document library, it actually hides the title field by default. So what we're going to do is edit the current view and quickly show the title, because I want to use the title as my customer number. Since I already have that, I might as well use it. And I will drag this here to the right, to the left. And now I'm going to add the rest of my information. So we've got title where we're going to store the customer number. Now the next one we want to add is possibly, why not license plate would be a good one. So let's do license plate. So make it a single line of text. We'll drag that one over to the left. The next one we might want to add, let's say vehicle might be a good one. You actually want to know what the type of vehicle is that got in the accident. Drag it to the left. Next one probably would be something like the description of the accident. So let's do accident description. And then in this case, it might be longer than a single line of text, which you have a limit for. So we'll make it multiple lines of text. And you know, for the sake of our demo, I think that's enough. You guys get the idea. If you want more data, metadata, you can add that yourself. Okay. The next step is actually jumping to our mobile phone. And because what we're going to do for the majority of this app, we want to actually create it in a tool called Power Automate the mobile app. So what I will do is quickly project my phone. There we go. So here with the Android and iPhone app stores, you can get to an app called Power Automate here. So we're going to select Power Automate, refresh to make sure I'm still connected, and you'll see it's a great little app. So if you guys are perhaps on your way in the subway or the bus to work, you could actually work on your mobile app and get this app the majority done on the way there. So really cool stuff you can do directly on the app. You can also use the web version of you want of flow.microsoft.com or the Power Automate directly to create it, but I'm going to show you how to do it easily on the mobile app. So you see here, you actually see at the bottom, I'll do a quick guide of you. You have things like your activity. You can browse and see the templates that are available for you to start by creating your Power Automate flows. You can see any buttons you have. I'll skip that because that's what we're going to be doing together. You can see any flows or Power Automate flows that you have already created, which account you're logged in from. So in this case, we're going to be creating a new flow from blank. Okay. So what we're going to do is, first thing we're going to do is select what type of flow it is. And in this case, the idea is that the adjuster is going to be on site where the accident happened, and they're going to pull out their mobile phone and they're going to open up this Power Automate app. And there should be a button there where they can quickly upload the photo of the accident and add any metadata. So you do that using the flow button for mobile. So we'll click that and we will click that trigger. We will give the flow a name. So let's give it accident claims photo let's call it flow app. Okay. So now when they press the button, we want to be able to prompt the user for some information. That information should be things like the same as what we put in our SharePoint document library as metadata in the data source. So the first one, if we remember, we're going to be using title as a data source. So we're going to select title. So we'll say the first one is an input of customer number. Okay, so the second input probably is the one we want is license plate. The third one we want is vehicle. The fourth one is accident description. Accident description. And lastly, we need to prompt the user for a file, and that's going to be the photo. They can either have the photo already on their mobile phone, or they can take it via the camera. So what we're going to do is click on add an input and select the file option. And then there we go. So now that we have the ability to manually trigger a flow via the flow button and prompting for the metadata when they click on that, including the file, we're going to add a new step. The next step is that now that we got the file on our mobile phone, we want to actually upload it to SharePoint. So we're going to add a action based on the SharePoint connector here. And that one, the action that we're going to look for is a create file action. So when we click on the create file, there's a few things it asks us. Obviously the site address. Now the site address is the same address as the SharePoint site that is backed by the team. So if we name the team something we could really understand, then we see here I've got one called insurance claim discussions. So that's our SharePoint site as the site address. The folder path should be the library that we created. We'll call it accident. I think we called it accident claimed photos. The name of the file. So before I do that, so the name of the file we're going to be uploading is coming from the metadata that we've added in the inputs. Now, the name of the file we got to be careful of because we want it to be unique. So an example of possibly something unique would be something like the license plate that was picked from the input of the flow button. And possibly another one that would make it unique would be the timestamp, because one person can get into multiple accidents. So, and then any file that's uploaded is a JPEG, so we'll just do that like that. And then the content of the file is actually coming from the flow button, and we got to look for one called file content, and that's the file content binary. So first we've manually triggered the flow and added the inputs. Secondly, we've uploaded it to SharePoint. And the next step is uploading the file properties, because notice here we just uploaded the file, but now we got to add that metadata to those fields in SharePoint. So what we're going to do is add another action, find the SharePoint connector, and there is a action here called it is update file properties. So we'll just do a search there, and there we go. Update file properties. So it asks us for the same type of information. We want to select the library, or select the site first, and then select the library. And then we will, it's prompting us for the ID of the file that we want to update. Now, in this case, the file was just uploaded, and you can see that it was able to pass us the item ID from the create file action. So we're going to select that one so it knows which one to update. Now, in terms of the title, we decided that for the title, we're going to use the customer number that was prompted from the input input that you did when you triggered the flow via the mobile button. So let's find customer number, the license plate. The license plate should be there as well. So we'll find license plate. Vehicle, that also should be there. And then the accident description as well. So here is, so what you'll notice what happened was that when I clicked on update file properties, the app was smart enough to pull in the properties from the library that we want to fill in. So title, license plate, vehicle, accident description. So it was able to pull in those properties, and all we had to do was point to the inputs that we had from the manually trigger a flow action. So at this point, our mobile app should be done. Okay. So now, before we exit this, okay, so we should have a new button here called the accident claims photo flow app. Okay, so let's go and test it out to see if it works. So we'll give it a customer number. Let's say I'm at a claim now. I'm an adjuster. I'm there on site with one of my clients. They've got an accident. I've got the car right in front of me. I want to open my mobile app. I've hit the flow button and I got to fill in all the information. I should have all this information, such as the customer number, the license plate. In Canada, ours looks like something like this. Vehicle, let's do BMW X5. Let's give it a year or two just to be a little bit more concise. Accident description, so let's say hit tree, and then it's prompting us for the file content just like we wanted it to. I already have some photos in my photo library, so let's see if I can go to my screenshots, and then we got Homer here, so let's choose Homer. So we'll click on done, and at this point it should be running behind the scenes, the actual flow. So now, if you look at it now, I went to the activity and I was able to see that with the green check marks that the flow has run successfully. So just to validate that it's working, so let's go back to the library we just created, and we should technically see that with the metadata that we specified. So here you can see that we've got title, we've got license plate, vehicle, accident description, when it was modified, who was modified by, etc., and then the file name we specified. And then just to validate that the picture got there, let's go to the tile view and we can see that the photo's there. So cool, that part of the demo worked. Let's move on. Let's actually add some more data because this will help when we're generating the Power App. So let's go upload a few extra pictures for the fun of it. I'll do this real quick. License plate, so let's give it another one quickly. Vehicle, let's say 1985, my first car, Toyota. Toyota Camry. Oh, sorry, it wasn't even a Camry, it was a Celica. Accident description, let's say hit from behind. Okay, let's spell that properly. And then the content, let's go select another Homer picture. And then just for the fun of it, let's add one more. Actually, let's just verify that this worked correctly. We go back to our flow. This says last run seconds ago, so it should be there. So that's good. Let's go add one more just for the fun of it. Let's do 2019 Honda Accord. Let's say fell asleep. It's not great, but it is what it is. So let's photo library, select from screenshots, and let's find another Homer one to upload. Okay, let's see if we can catch this while it's running, but Looks like that one was run a minute ago. Let's go back, and this one was run successfully. So now, if we go and refresh this, we should see all of our pictures uploaded with the right amount of metadata that we entered in. So we'll go here. And here is all the metadata. Okay. So now that we have added our data source, we've created the tool which the adjusters are going to use to upload the documents and the metadata. The next thing we want to do is create a Power App. So where do we start to create this Power App for this? So where we go first is we will go to office.com. I like to tell all my customers that, there's so many different URLs to remember. Always go to the one thing that can always remember is office.com. If you remind everybody to go to office.com, they can get to everything there. Mail, their OneDrive, their Teams, their Yammer, you name it, their SharePoint. And in here, there is also, if you go to all apps, we'll have Power Apps. So we will select Power Apps. You can also get to it from the app launcher. So we'll go to our Power Apps. And here, what we're going to do is create a new app where we're starting from SharePoint data. And right away, the first thing we see here is a nice interface that says we want to start from data. So this is the one we're going to select. Straightforward, we're going to be starting from data. Now we'll click on this, and here it's going to ask us for the site. Now it's smart enough to remember some recent sites you've been to, and right away you see that this is the site. What it's not smart enough to do is give you a list of all the libraries. If you would, it's great to show the lists, but it doesn't show you all the libraries themselves, the document libraries. So what we have to do is manually get the name of that library, and I think this is the one. So let's go and see, type it out. So this one is accident claim photos. Then you click on the connect button. Oops. Is that not the name? What we will do, accident claims photos. I forgot an S. Accident claims photos. We'll connect. And there we go. Right away, what we get is 3 different screens and components. Well, let's give it a second to load up. And that's a really cool thing about using Power Apps. It kind of takes your data and gives you some screens right away. And there's 3 screens that it gives you. So I'll just zoom in on this. So the first one is here's the 3 screen, the browse screen, the detail screen, and the edit screen. The first one is the browse screen. The second one is the detail screen and the edit screen. The detail screen basically shows you information about one of the items in your list. The browse screen kind of shows you all of the items that you're looking for, and the edit allows you to edit. So really for our app, we're really interested in the browse screen and the detail screen, because that's what we're going to show to the managers and everybody who's browsing. So right away, it extracts some of the metadata. I don't know if you remember, but there was the customer number, the license plate, the vehicle, but you know what? We want to make this app look a little bit more snazzy. So what we'll do, it's just taking a second to load. Okay, there we go. So what we'll do is go to this gallery, and the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the layout of it. So you'll see on the right-hand side under Properties, we've got this layout field. And we want to show some more data and possibly show a picture. So we'll select that drop down. Let's find a layout that's a pre-built for us that we might want to use. So here's a nice one, an image, title, subtitle, and body. So why don't we select that one and see what happens here. So it's applied this and already given us an image and done some nice stuff to it already. So what I want to do is make it even nicer. Maybe we'll extend this image size a little bit bigger. You'll notice as I edit one, the rest of it is doing editing there. We'll also put the image position to be, we'll do that in a second, but we need to make sure this image is pulling in the link to the image of the document library. Now, obviously, security you'll have to be aware of, making sure whoever has access to the app has access to the SharePoint site as well, or the SharePoint library as well. But what we're going to do here is go to the Advanced tab. And right now it's just using this word called a sample image. But what we want to do is use this item dot link to item. And what that does is able to suck in the image. And notice that it automatically populates all 3 images, but it still doesn't look that nice. What I wanted to probably do is fill it into the entire space. There we go, it looks a little bit better. So now these ones are showing the customer number, license plate, but we want to give it a little bit more information for the user to look at. So what we'll do is the text right now is filled in by this item.title. We want to perhaps put the word customer number here, the space and the and symbol. Perhaps here we want to call it license plate. Perhaps here we want to say vehicle. Okay, and then we probably are missing one field that I want to add, and that one is probably the name of the adjuster, the person who created the file. So let's just copy this one and paste it in here, move it down a bit. And right now it's vehicle duplicated, but I want to have it as the actual adjuster. So we'll change this one to adjuster. And then in this case, it is the person who created it by. So created by dot display name. Okay, so that's a good first screen to go to. So the manager is going to see all the different claims that happened that day, and just at a glance he might say, you know what, I want to look at this one a little bit more. So then they're going to go to the next screen, which is the detail screen. So here's an example of the detail screen, and right away here it doesn't look that great. It doesn't have enough information for my manager to look at it. It has some of the information but not all of it. But so the first thing I'm going to do is see if there's any way I could change the layout to look a little bit better. So here on the right hand side I'm able to change it from a 1-column view to a 2-column view. So we'll select 2 columns here. We also want to probably add some more fields here, and we could do that by clicking the edit fields. We'll get rid of tags because we don't really need tags. But what we probably do want is probably who created it, right? So let's go and add the created by. And then we probably want to move this one up because the accident description is going to be probably a little bit longer than the rest, right? So, and here the title, it's probably have a slash at the end, but we want to change the title to customer number. Perhaps make these title fields bold, right? So let's just do that just to make it look a little bit nicer. And then this accident description, we want to kind of extend it because it's going to be a little bit longer text, right? I'm pretty lazy. I didn't put a big description, but when you're on site putting a description, you want to have something nice. Now, one thing that's missing here is a bigger picture. So we want to add that picture to the screen. So we go to the insert, and then we go to the media, and then we just go image. So we'll click on image, and then we'll put the picture, we'll extend it to like right about here, let's say, because we want enough room for the accident description. And here, in order to show the picture, it's a little bit different formula we need to get to that. So here is still a sample image. We got to point to the browse gallery. So that on the left hand side, this is called a browse gallery. Dot selected item, dot selected, dot link to item. There we go. So we got the first picture. And again, it's not filling the full screen. We want to make it fill to make it look really nice here. Okay, so now we have enough information for the manager to take a look at the actual claim and possibly decide if they want to have a further discussion on it. So our next step, if you guys all remember, according to the flow, is to actually start a claims discussion. So what we want to do is have a button here that says, let's start a claim discussion. So what we'll do is add a button. So we'll select the frame and add a button. So here's our button. And then we'll say create a discussion channel. So normally our manager would do this if they want to have further discussion. So bring this down just to make it look nice. And that's pretty much it for the interface. Normally we'd get rid of the edit button, but in this demo we're not going to do that, but we'll create a discussion channel. Now when they create a discussion channel, here's where we actually want to invoke another Power Automate flow. This is going to go into our team, if you remember, here, and we wanted to create another channel here, specifically for a discussion for that claim and for that customer, where we can have a conversation on it with our posts, we can upload our files to it, or we can do anything else to it we want. So we will go back to that app, and we will invoke an action. And right away we see when we clicked on the action tab at the top, so we clicked on this, and then we're going to click on this, the Power Automate action. So we will select that and we will create a new flow. And here it opens up directly the Power Automate flow admin center, kind of the authoring tool. And the first thing we see here is this thing called a Power Apps button. That's really what we're doing here. So this Power Apps button is going to be invoked from our Power App to call a flow. So we will select that. And it'll ask us for our connection. We will give it a name. So let's call it Accident Claims Power Apps button flow. Here, we're going to add a new step. And the first thing we're going to do is we want to filter by the Microsoft Teams connector, and we want to be able to create a channel. So we'll do a search on channel, and we find to create a channel action. So this is the one we're interested in. So we'll create a channel. Now the name of the Teams ID, we can, again, it kind of remembers it all for you. And the one we're interested in is insurance claims discussions, and the name of the channel. Now the name of the channel is going to be, we kind of want it to be unique, right? We don't want it to have the same name all the time. So what we're going to do is ask what the name is in Power Apps, and we want to select a unique name. So we'll, as soon as we select it here, it said, why don't we ask in Power Apps? So that's what we're going to press. So we'll select the apps, ask in Power Apps. We will add one more step to post a message in Teams in that channel. So let's find post a message. Let's post a message right here. And again, you select your Teams ID, which is the insurance claims discussions. We will select the channel ID. It created a channel here, so I should be able to get the channel ID from that one by selecting enter custom value. And then here's the ID that the create a channel gave me. So we'll select that ID. And then here we'll put a post, something like, how about this claim might have some complexities. Let's have some more discussions on it. Please post all photos in the channel's files tab. And to make it stand out, why don't we make it bold and italic and make it a nice red color. Okay, so now we're done this part of the flow. So at this point, we're going to go back to our Power App. When we go back to our Power App, this is going to refresh here, and you see this flow that we just created automatically showed up here. We'll click on this flow here, and that's going to kind of be triggered. This button is going to trigger this, but you see here, it prompts asking us for some information here. So when you run this, we said we need to ask in Power Apps for some information. So we're going to add that information here. So we will add, we need something unique. So perhaps the ID of the item is a good one. ID would be a good one to use to make it unique. Perhaps we want to add a dash and how about the customer number? And if we remember correctly, the customer number was in the title. Selected.title. There we go. And we'll close this and we should be good here. So at this point, we're ready with our Power App. We're going to go to the file. We're going to give it a name. So we'll call it the Accident Claims Power App. We'll give it a nice icon, you know, perhaps a nice color. You could give it a description and all that. And then we'll go to the Save button and we will save it in the cloud. So now our Power App and the associated Power Automate is ready to go. So what we're going to do is go back to our insurance claims discussions. And this is where when you guys are remote working, you'll find that if you've deployed Microsoft Teams, you're always going to be working in here. So you're always going to be chatting, having video calls, meetings, and everything. So whatever you're doing, you want to make sure everything is surfaced up here. So what we want to do is add a new tab here and find the Power App right here. So this Power App, since I created it, is going to surface up all these apps that I have access to. And here's the app that I've created. So I'm going to save this here. And theoretically, if everything went well, it's going to surface up that whole Power App, which we did. So now, if we were to test the end-to-end experience, we uploaded our photos, and my manager is going to be constantly monitoring this app here. And he says, you know what, Homer, of course, I better take a closer look at this one and say, Homer and Marge, you know, I might want to create a discussion channel. So when I click on this, it's going to invoke the other Power Automate, which should create a channel right here. So I'll click on it. And if everybody can watch here, if the demo goes well, then it should create a new channel, and it did. And it created this one called the ID and the 13626. Now, it posted the message, so it created the channel and it posted the message. This claim might have some complexities. Let's upload more photos to the Files tab. And now here, if me as the adjuster, I can go and find some pictures that I want, other pictures perhaps that I had with the claim, and upload them here easily. Okay, and then we could show it in a tiles view, and here's some other pictures that I would have about the accident. So what you guys have seen is us creating a data source in SharePoint of this accident claim photos. You've seen us on the mobile app create the end-to-end experience for when an insurance claims adjuster uploads a photo using the Flow app button, puts in the metadata, uploads it to our library here. Right. You've seen us create a Power App that renders all these nicely in a nice looking form. And one thing that I neglected to message is that there's actually a Power Apps mobile app, which your manager can go and monitor as well, instead of if they're not in their Teams. We saw in their Microsoft Teams the fact that when the manager went and reviewed all the pictures, they can select anyone they want to have a further discussion on, create a discussion channel on it, and it'll create a channel for me to upload more information and have more collaboration on it. So so you can start your discussions and upload your photos and everything like that. So that's kind of the end of our demo. So let's move on to the rest of the presentation. Yeah, actually, that's it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the presentation. Please give us some speaker and event feedback. Any feedback would be great. If you're looking for more information, you have my contact information. Also, there's a good, some good Oculus that they're giving away, 3 Oculuses for prizes. So make sure you visit the vendor booths, the sessions, watch the videos. You know, obviously, consider donating for charity. It's tough during this pandemic and these times. Please help as much as you can to everybody. And if you have any questions, my contact is right here, and we will probably be reading some of the Q&A answers right now, if we have enough time. So let me find the first one. Okay, there's no questions, so it looks like I've done a great job throughout the presentation. So thank you, everyone, and hope you enjoyed.